The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The Dallas Cowboys are over 500 for the first time this year.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast.
This Cowboys season has been very much up and down, and mostly down.
Yeah.
But over the last 11 days, you have 3 wins, including back-to-back wins against the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. It really feels like this team is growing up before our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's official that this is definitely a team that, nobody wants to make the playoffs, right? Like nobody wants to face these guys, early in the playoffs, because I think that they're going to be even more feisty as the season goes on. They're building more confidence. They're playing together. If they can continue to kind of stay healthy, hopefully, they have a combination that we've talked about, an offense that is a juggernaut, even against good defenses. I think this was one of those games where you kind of the usual game script for the Cowboys was, AFC contender that's actually trying to really win this game. That doesn't sound like a game that the Cowboys would win. It sounds like a game that they would fumble away. And early on in the game, it kind of felt like that maybe was the game script. But they found their footing and were able to kind of, turn on the Jets. And just when we'll talk about it, but just when we all wrote off CeeDee, not all of us, but just when everybody else wrote off CeeDee Lamb, suddenly, he shows up, a super scion, and just goes nuts. So I just think, I think it's a dangerous team right now. And I think they're playing it at a high level. And really the thing that's stopping them when they are getting stopped is mostly themselves and not the good teams that they're playing.
For all my life, the Cowboys have lost this game, right? You start out, you throw an interception on like the 3rd or 4th play. The Chiefs score a touchdown 2 plays later. Even you get this lead late in the game, and you're not able to milk the clock against the all-time great quarterback. I mean, how many times have we seen that? So the game that just jumps into my mind is like the Broncos game with Peyton Manning, right, in 2013. Like they have just not been able to close out these big games on national TV, and they've done it twice in 4 days, Landon. Like that's the thing to me. Like it's crazy to see one of these, to see them back to back in such a short period of time. It's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, it just felt like when they got the ball back that last time, I just could see it playing out in my head. It's like, they'll kind of try a couple of anemic things, and ultimately it won't be enough, and they're going to have to punt the ball away. And now we're facing Patrick Mahomes only having to get into field goal range in order to get.
My brother and I were watching the game thinking, okay, well, if the Cowboys, are they going to have enough time to score if they need to go down and get a touchdown? What if they need to get a field goal? Well, they took the last, was at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Kansas City had all 3 timeouts, and they were kneeling on the ball at the end of the game. I mean, there's been very few of the times that they've actually accomplished that.
Well, and let's be clear, they did it by, showing an appropriate amount of aggressiveness too, throwing the football at, when maybe, other teams would have just taken that third kneel and been happy with it. Like, getting the ball to Pickens, in the middle of the field, not trying to get out of bounds. And so that he gets tackled in the boundary. It was a high leverage situation. He drops it. Obviously the clock stops, but being willing to do that and trust your guys, it super paid off, because they didn't even have to worry about lining up for what would have been a very short field goal. They could just kneel it out, and they just basically strangleholded the game at the end of it, in a very impressive way, right? In a way that's how winning football teams win the game, right? As they do it smart, and they win the football game when it's presented to them, and they took the brass ring.
Couple of key plays that really swung this game that I want to mention. One is right at the end of the game. George Pickens catches a pass on 3rd down, cuts up field, and fumbles. And there's like 3 Chiefs there. And if the Cowboys don't recover that fumble, the Chiefs the game is tied at that point, or the Cowboys down? Yeah, I think it would have been. The Cowboys would have only gone up. They would have only been up 7 and not 10, right? The Kansas City scored on the next drive. But That is a 3-point play that Cavante Turpin made. He saw it right away, went and got that football. It's the little plays like that that end up making the difference in these games.
Yeah, and again, I think it was small performances that really mattered here. Look, the Chiefs were doing a really good job of bottling up Williams early in the run game as well, and they decided they were mixing it up with Malik Davis, who obviously had a 43-yard touchdown. But then on top of that, they were doing some of the other stuff that we had talked about, focusing on getting Turpin, opportunities with the ball in his hands on the perimeter. The jet sweeps were working, that they were actually handing the ball off without him falling down and fumbling the ball, and having great success there. So they were able to kind of adjust their game plan when their top end weapon, even Pickens didn't necessarily have his best game. I mean, not quite to the level that we saw with Lamb last week, but it was to the point where thank God Lamb came back and played the way he did this week, because it wasn't going to be one of those games where you could consistently move the ball throughout the game with Pickens. He made the big plays at the end when you needed them, but it wasn't consistent throughout the game. It was great to see guys like Ferguson and obviously Lamb coming back to step up and fill that gap when you needed it.
We're going to talk about those receivers more in a second, and I don't want to do the playoff picture thing right now. The Cowboys have about a 25% chance. We'll talk about that more into the week, but I did want to take like a 10,000-foot view of this team, because since the Quinnen Williams trade, and it's not all Quinnen Williams, but since that trade, this has looked like an entirely different team. And one of the things that you and I said when the Cowboys made that trade is that we wanted them to just play better, like more than anything else, even more than winning and losing. We just wanted them to play better football. And I don't know if you can ask for anything more. We'll see what happens the rest of the way, but we wanted to see a team that was trending upward, and you can't deny that they are.
Yeah, I mean, we hoped that they would get to like league average on defense. I mean, again, through 3 weeks, I feels like they're playing better than league average. And that's still with kind of having to shuttle guys in and out at cornerback and safety, because guys were getting banged up throughout the game, and still guys coming off of major injuries. So, it certainly feels like the offense is playing up to what we expected it to be, but the defense is playing better than we honestly could have imagined at this point.
And one more thing before we move on our preview show that came out on Wednesday, you and I thought the Cowboys needed to score 24 points to win this game. Almost all of the games that the Chiefs have lost this year, it's been when the opponent has scored 24 points. This is, I think, the number 4 ranked defense in the league. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys scored 31 points in this game, and they basically gave 7 away to start the game. They averaged 7 yards of play in this one. Dallas was giving up big plays left and right. They averaged a full yard more per play than what Kansas City did. They've had some really good games on offense this year. I would argue this is maybe their best performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that was really impressive is that they were at, I think, 50% on third downs, and even early in the game, it was a tough slog, and it felt like Kansas City wasn't exhausted from the games that they had just played, recently. But as the game, because they were able to convert those third downs and continue those drives and keep them going, it gave them opportunities in the red zone. They weren't able to convert all of them. I think they were ended up being 50% of the red zone, which should have been 75% if you could get Jake's shin down on inside the end zone. But I think the opportunities are what was mattered, because I think Kansas City ended up somewhere in the 33% area, and that's maybe what the difference. That's how you kind of flipped the possession flow a little bit, despite that interception early, which the Kansas City was able to convert into a touchdown. Can I just add this one more thing too, real quick? It feels like, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the defensive. I just wanted to bring this up before I forget, that Kansas City's offense just simply looked different after they ran out their game script. Right? Like after the first 15 plays of the game, it felt like Kansas City's offense was a little bit more herky-jerky, a little more start-stop. They definitely obviously were able to make some huge plays at certain points, but it didn't feel like they were consistently a well-oiled unit at certain points. So it certainly kind of evened the game up, and I felt like the Cowboys at a certain point were a very even team with them.
Last thing, I remember tweeting when the Cowboys got the ball, they were up 17-14. I said they're probably going to be only 3 or 4 possessions left in this game. How the Cowboys handle these next 3 will decide their season. 7 plays, 78 yards, field goal. That's the Jake Ferguson one. 8 plays, 68 yards, touchdown. 8 plays, 82 yards, field goal. 8 plays, 40 yards, end of game. That's it. You scored touchdown. You scored points on 3 of the 4, and the last one was to burn out the clock. So well done by the Cowboys offense.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Turns out the Bengals just needed Joe Burrow to play football.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast.
We get to celebrate a Bengals win, Joe Burrow's return triumphant in Baltimore. Third time's a charm, finally winning on the third straight year that the Bengals have played in Baltimore on Thursday Night Football. This one on Thanksgiving night, a breakout performance for this defense. Joe Burrow knocking the rust off. You name it. This ends up being a fantastic win for the Cincinnati Bengals. It really just leaves you regretting the last 9 weeks a little bit, James, the last 9 games a little bit, but they're not dead. The playoffs are officially still alive for the Cincinnati Bengals. They needed to start with a win this week. It needs to continue with wins for the next 5 weeks. But in Joe Burrow's return, hope is still alive for his team.
Yep. Hope is still alive. And my goodness, it's wild what Joe Burrow does. Joe Burrow suddenly made the defense good. All those people that said, hey, can he play safety? Well, he can play safety, rush the passer, and force Lamar Jackson to fumble. I mean, that's what's so wild about this game is if you would have told me that the Bengals defense forced 3 first-half turnovers and that the Bengals offense would have 12 total points, just that alone, without saying, oh, well, in the red zone, they were there 4 times and they had 9 points to show for it. And they had 4 downs at the 2 and they had nothing to show for it. Well, I'd be like, oh, well, so the Bengals lost this game, right? And I think a lot of people at halftime felt that way. But their offense and their defense, they did play a little complimentary football in the second half after the defense did everything they could to put them in position to win the game in the first half. And that's it. I think this is the most complete win they've had all year when you combine what the offense did in the second half. And they dominated the time of possession. I mean, dominated it. This is not something that the Bengals have really done much this year, is win the turnover battle, dominate the time of possession. Their star running back, who should have gotten more carries, averages 5+ yards a carry. They did turn it over once. Should have been turnover free. I wish they were, so we could say that. But just top to bottom, Jake, this was a dominant win on the road in the AFC North, short week, season on the line. Take away the Burrow returning storyline and the importance and all of that. It was a dominant win against the team that everyone thought was going to win the division 5 hours ago. And maybe that's wavered a little bit at this point, at least for some. But yeah, it's a huge, huge win for the Bengals.
And thought they would run away with the division. But you look at the teams that Baltimore has played lately, and perhaps we should have given more credit to the fact that their wins came against the Jets, Browns, Vikings, Dolphins, and Bears. And the Bears, I know, have 8 wins, I think, in the NFC North. But those other teams, pretty bad, especially lately. And it's not like the Ravens were particularly dominant in those games. The Bengals, however, lost to several of those teams. So it's not like the Bengals had been particularly dominant either. I think that the game ends up dominant. The second half certainly was. I wonder how differently it could have gone had they not had a little bit of luck early in this one. Jordan Battle sticking with Isaiah Likely after he gives up a deep catch. And I'm like, all right, of course it's a tight end again. But Jordan Battle sticks with him all the way down the sideline and knocks it out before Isaiah Likely gets over the goal line. And you credit Jordan Battle for the hustle on that play. And the Bengals taking advantage of at least 2 absolute gift turnovers from Lamar Jackson in this game, one of which would not have been a fumble if the tuck rule still existed, one of which is an insane bonehead play. I mean, I guess you credit Joseph Osai and Cedric Johnson on the one hand, but like probably if that's the other way, you're saying, man, you cannot do that in that spot. An inexcusable turnover on the 2 that the Bengals didn't even get any points out of. No, but you're right. It was a complete game for the Bengals because they capitalized on the eventual field position to get 3 points anyway. And that's where it is a complete game. It's the 5 takeaways. It's Joe Burrow finding his footing, finding his rhythm in the second half, and it's the special teams unit that sees Evan McPherson kick 6 field goals, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 6 field goals, including a
50 plus.
That was a tough one. I looked at that. I was like, and that was the one that gave them a 29-14 lead and didn't seal the deal, but really put it on ice. I believe that was that one. And yeah, so I was nervous, and Money Mac is not only back. I think this is the best we've seen him, honestly, with how consistent he's been.
The kicks he's missed this year, one where he was kicking with a regular ball, not the kicker ball, which has made a big difference for kickers across the NFL this year. You're seeing kickers kicking longer field goals across the NFL. So kicking with a ball that isn't prepared for kicking, that's one miss. One was the 67-yarder after he was iced after making the 67-yarder against Green Bay. And there's one other 50-plus yard miss that he has this year, and that's it. Been really good for Evan McPherson. Really good game holding for Ryan Rico. A lot of high snaps out there. That's the one thing in the operation that you would like to see ironed out. But that's probably the tertiary storyline here, James, is I think the defense probably dominates, to me, the stories of the game, if not for the fact that this is Joe Burrow's first game back. Like, yeah, the defense did insane things after the defense that we've seen from them all year. 5 takeaways against Lamar Jackson in this Baltimore offense that we were supposed to fear. And Lamar looked awful in this game. One of the worst games I've ever seen Lamar Jackson play, certainly in recent history, certainly against the Bengals. But there were moments, like you said, like the way the first half went, where even when the Bengals scored in the second half and the way that the third quarter goes is the Bengals get that stop, which was surprising to me. But then they go touchdown. Ravens quickly answer touchdown. Bengals quickly answer touchdown. And then the Ravens start driving again.
Yep.
But even after that Bengals second touchdown to get up 26-14 in the second half, which gives them their second 2-score lead of the half, I'm thinking, man, this feels like 2024 again. We're just going to see touchdowns exchanged for the rest of the game. And then the defense bucked up. And then we found Al Golden find the right time to dial up pressures and get Myles Murphy one-on-one with Isaiah Likely to create an interception for Barrett Carter. And you credit Al Golden too.
For Demetrius Knight.
Demetrius Knight. My apologies. You're right.
Yeah. Wrong rookie linebacker.
Yeah, we'll talk about those rookie linebackers at some point in the next week. But yeah, where I was going was credit Al Golden for finding the right buttons to push, finding blitzes that were effective, that got free runners, that found ways to get mismatches, that challenged Baltimore's protection rules, which is something that I've been critical of this defense of all year. Really found those answers tonight and found a way to be very disruptive against Lamar, who was terrible when he was blitzed in this game. I think it was 4 of 9 when blitzed in this game for Lamar Jackson with that interception. So really unable to find production when the Bengals sent the blitz.
Yeah, huge. It's huge for this defense to find ways to get pressure. It's amazing what pressure can do. And Myles Murphy, the pass, it goes down as a pass defense on the tip ball that becomes the interception. Myles Murphy on 4th and 8. And I thought this was really the drive of the game. Like when you talk about turnovers, the Bengals forced 5 turnovers, including 4 fumbles. But the turnover on downs was big. It's 4th and 8. Lamar drops back, and Myles Murphy gets pressure on him, makes him step up, and Lamar throws it probably earlier than he wanted to and not where he wanted to. And Josh Newton has the easiest. He could have had an interception, smartly batted the ball down because it was 4th down. Pressure does things, man. It does, especially when Lamar's playing the way he was, is it didn't let him find his rhythm. Joe Burrow had time to get into a little bit of a rhythm and obviously did on back-to-back touchdown drives. Lamar didn't. And it's a lot of that is Al Golden and the blitzing and these young pass rushers, Joseph Osai and Myles Murphy, wreaking havoc. And if you're going to do that, well, you're going to have chances. You're going to have opportunities for turnovers. And so, yeah, this defense deserves a ton of credit. The splash plays, well, it's been back-to-back games now with splash plays from this defense.
Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, and the Green Bay Packers gave Dan Campbell and the Lions a taste of their own medicine in a Thanksgiving Day victory.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
The thing that happened for the Packers in this game is they got the aggressive version of Matt LaFleur. They got the 2023 Thanksgiving Day version of Matt LaFleur, and that was the version of Matt LaFleur we had been asking for on the show. In fact, I did a video talking about the keys to victory for the Green Bay Packers on Thursday. And what I said was that they needed to get the 2023 play script, that version of the Packers, needed to be the one that we saw at Ford Field on Thursday. And that's exactly what we saw. It was from the jump, not just like, okay, they passed it, the same number of rushes that they had. You include, by the way, a couple of kneel downs at the end. It was going for it on fourth down. It was taking your shots down the field. It was not just what you're calling on fourth down. It's what you're doing on third down because you know you're going on fourth down. The Packers convert a fourth down after taking a shot play to Christian Watson that could have been converted. Could have been DPI. The officiating in this game was an absolute nightmare on both sides. We're not going to get into it, but it was terrible. I mean, it was bad. Apparently, I was joking with Matt Derry. We were texting during the game, and I was like, apparently, every Packers-Lions game needs to be officiated just atrociously at least once a year. That has to be the deal. I don't quite understand it. But look, this team, they played aggressively on defense. Micah Parsons was phenomenal in this football game. 2.5 sacks. He's been a Thanksgiving Day performer. I know there's like these narratives about, oh, he's in the playoffs. Oh, Micah Parsons. No, he was phenomenal in this game. His sack in the red zone essentially won this game for the Packers. But what didn't essentially win, what literally won this game for the Packers, in the end, the last play of the game is Matt LaFleur goes on fourth down. And when it's 3rd and 3, what I said was, and I put this on the socials, so you can double check me. This is not Monday morning quarterback nonsense. This is not, what I would have done in a totally hypothetical situation. No, I'm not second guessing. I was first, not even guessing. I was first suggesting on 3rd and 3, go for it. I run the ball on 3rd down, make them call the timeout. Or I guess it was get it to the 2-minute warning, and then go for it on 4th down if you don't get it on 3rd down, and live with whatever result. Now, the Packers, luckily for them, had got it into plus territory. You get that completion to Christian Watson, that gets you there, and that was Love being clutch. Jordan Love, I mean, Matt LaFleur can't be aggressive if Jordan Love doesn't play to the level that he played to today, and he left plays on the field. I mean, he had 2 plays on that first drive where they kicked the field goal eventually. If he just lays that ball out to Bo Melton a little bit, he scores, and this game is not even in doubt late. The Packers, final score is going to say 31-24. But what that really says is once the Packers went up 10-0, this was back and forth between a 1-score game and a 2-score game the whole time. The Packers never were really in jeopardy. The Lions, I think, had the ball one time in the whole game with a chance to take the lead, and that was 17-14. They turned the ball over on downs. The Packers come back, and they hit the 51-yard touchdown to Christian Watson to go up 24-14, and the game is never even like close beyond that. The Lions get the touchdown to make it 17-14. Green Bay kneels on the ball. The Packers get the stop out of halftime, which was, we're not doing a squad show, but that was the turning point in the game. That was the turning point in the game. And by the way, it's 3rd and 2. You get Isaiah McDuffie and Micah Parsons running through to get the tackle for loss. And then, that was the 4th down play. On the 2nd down play, it's Isaiah McDuffie and Edrin Cooper running through. I was confusing my tackles for loss. Green Bay made a ton of negative plays in this game. They once again hold Jahmyr Gibbs in check, 20 carries for 68 yards. And we'll talk about the defense a little bit later, but This was the Packers had 7 tackles for loss in this game. They played aggressively on both sides of the ball. It's not just Matt LaFleur. It's not just what you were able to do on offense, but, and I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole because the Packers won and this is a beautiful day, but it does make you frustrated, doesn't it? That this could have been the team the whole time. Like this could have been the version of the offense you got the whole time. Jordan Love and his 4 touchdown passes and just letting him cook. I mean, some of these throws, man, were unbelievable. The one to Dontavian Wicks is an absolute laser beam. The ball to Christian Watson on the touchdown, perfectly placed. The play action deep over route from Luke Musgrave is a seed on the run. I mean, he was terrific in this game. And this is the version of the Packers against a very good offense. I understand. No Amon-Ra St. Brown, no Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta is not coming back. Jameson Williams had a great game and had a drop. There was some weird stuff with the officiating too, and there was some weird, like the Packers got every bounce in this game. Romeo Doubs fumbles in the red zone. It bounces right to Rasheed Walker. Jameson Williams drops the ball on 4th down. The officials call the timeout when Matt LaFleur definitely should not have gotten the timeout, but balanced out by an egregious non-call on the DPI play late in the game, a terrible illegal contact call on Keyshawn Nixon after the drive was over. Carrington Valentine misses a tackle for a loss in the backfield that would have, not ended the drive, but it would have prevented a touchdown. This Packers team, down to down, play to play, they outplayed this Bears team comfortably. And to me, this was about mindset. This was about mindset. You came into this game to say, there was that clip last year. In fact, I was just talking to my father-in-law about this on the Netflix doc with Jared Goff, where Dan Campbell's like, we're going for it on every 4th down. And the impression that you got was you want to bury this team, but also you don't respect what the defense can do. That's what this felt like. And so it is just a little part of me is just sort of like, and I sent it to the group chat over on our Locked On Packers squad show. I was just like, this could have been the team the whole year. And it does make you wonder if this had been the team the whole year. Do they win one of the Browns games, the Panthers? Like if you just win one of those games, or you somehow play fast enough against the Cowboys that's a win instead of a tie. Well, now you have a really good shot at the 1 seed. Now we don't have to play the what if game. This Packers team, look what I said last week against the Vikings was we were going to see the best version of the Packers against the Vikings. It turns out the Jordan Love injury, the Josh Jacobs injury, they played pretty conservative. This is a top 10 defense. The Packers lit them up. If they needed to score on this last drive, they would have scored. They would have scored. This is the best version that we've seen of this Packers offense this season. They were outstanding. 6 yards per play. They had 1 punt in the first half and really 1 punt when the game was still in doubt. Now that the Lions turn the ball over on downs, you're up 10. The Packers go 3 and out and punt thanks to a Christian Watson drop. But other than that, they got whatever they wanted in this game. The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
It's time for war, and Ohio State isn't backing down. The Buckeyes are built for this moment.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This game is something that Ryan Day has been working towards since the last year's game ended, where the Buckeyes came up short for the 4th year in a row. Julian Sand, Jeremiah Smith, the Buckeyes got a lot of dogs on this team. And when I think about this game specifically, I think about Ohio State not only being ready for war, but also knowing they're not going to back down. knowing that when they go into this game, come out of the tunnel into a sea of 110,000 Michigan fans, they're going to look out there, see enemy colors, and they're just going to add fuel to their fire they've been working on and cultivating all week long and making a lot stronger than it's ever been to take down Michigan. Now, it's going to take a 4-quarter battle. This Michigan team is better than last year's team. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and say they're not. This Ohio State team could be better than last year's team. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, well, no, last year's team was better just because they won a national championship. This year's team has the opportunity to accomplish 3 goals. The same 3 goals that they set out to accomplish at the beginning of the season. And the first one is beating Michigan tomorrow. And the fact that I think Ohio State right now is built for this moment with guys that have worked hard and that have grinded to simply have a shot to play in this game as a starter. Think about Caden Curry, for example. He's in his 4th year. He sat behind Jack Sawyer and Toy Malowau in his first 3 years at Columbus, and now it's his time to shine. A week ago, homie scored a touchdown. The referees didn't see it, didn't call it a touchdown. I'm not really sure what they were looking at because from multiple angles, it was clear that that ball went across the goal line. He said something else is coming. And maybe that something else is coming this weekend where he's going to go into enemy territory and look across the line and see an offensive line that is really good. I'm not going to try to lie about that either. The offensive line is one thing that's impressed me when I watched the film on Michigan. A true freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood that has not seen a defense like Ohio State's. You got Caleb Downs, Alvaro Reese leading the charge, Sonny Styles, the block go. Then all the other players that are going to play on the Buckeyes defense tomorrow, they're all ready to go in there and shut down Michigan. I mean, Ohio State's banged up. Jeremiah Smith, Cardinal Tate, Lorenzo Styles Jr., Ryan, they said everybody was out there. We're talking about practice earlier this week. And so that's a good sign that guys that may have been banged up are now out there practicing, getting ready for this. Michigan has some injuries of their own. Justice Haynes, we talked about it. He's not going to be going. Jordan Marshall will probably give it a go. How effective will it be? We got to wait till tomorrow to find out. But Ohio State's defense can take advantage of the potential loss of Max Bredesen on Michigan's offense tomorrow, where Max Bredesen's not a guy that's going to get the ball, but he's very pivotal as a run blocker in an offense that is heavy on the run. You think about what Ohio State can do already when they're going up against a backup running back or up against a backup quarterback. Now you're losing one of your lead blockers that's very big in your run-heavy scheme. That's an advantage, and that's something that Ohio State can take advantage of. You work all year for this, and when you see somebody on the other side that you thought would be there or what you don't see them, it's time for you to see that loss and figure out how you can be more effective while that guy's not on the field. Speaking of not being on the field, there's a little bit of a belief in me that Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate will not only play, but they'll be effective. Now, how effective will they be? That's literally TBD, to be determined, but their presence on the field, and let's just say they can go all 4 quarters. Maybe they're banged up. They might be 80% or 75%, whatever the case may be, they're out there. The secondary of Michigan is going to have to give those guys a lot of attention. And while you're giving Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate attention, that's going to restrict how many resources you can devote to the run. You know whose running game has been getting better week after week after week? And a running back who is quietly inching closer to being a 1,000-yard rusher during his true freshman season? It's Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson's running ability has been a lot of fun to watch, and his growth this year is one thing we'll remember about him for years and years to come. And I think I made a comment on Wednesday's show saying this is where legends are made. In this game specifically, legends are going to be made, or you could be a guy that can look back and say, well, he didn't get it done against the team up north. And I think in this game, well, we don't know how many receptions or targets Tate and Smith are going to get. Their ability to be out there is going to be effective for the safeties and the defensive backs and maybe even the linebackers to pull their eyeballs towards those guys on the outside, which will open up running lanes for Bo Jackson, Isaiah West, Donaldson, and Peoples. And I still think Ohio State is going to use all 4 running backs. How will they utilize them? We got to wait till tomorrow to find out. But the effectiveness of Smith and Tate is going to be huge. Now, let's just say Smith and Tate are ready to go to war and go all out, give it everything they got. And Ryan Day made a comment earlier this year that when it's time to put their foot on the gas, they're going to do it. I don't know if it's this game, but if it is, you have to believe that Smith is going to get his, that Tate's going to get his, and that's going to add to Ohio State's fire and desire to go to battle and go to war tomorrow. There's one thing I thought about when it came to Jeremiah Smith in this game specifically, and it wasn't something he said on Caleb Downs' podcast or anything like that. It was something I witnessed from him last year. Think back to last year's Michigan State game where Ohio State is on the road and Jeremiah Smith had the phenomenal one-handed catch on the right side that came from Devin Brown. He caught that one-handed catch, went to the end zone, and you saw this young man like he was ready to go to battle with every Spartan fan in the stadium. He stood there. He was fired up. He was like a man that was more juiced up than he's ever been. Well, we hadn't really gotten that moment from Jeremiah Smith this year. And it's not saying that he hasn't had big moments, but he didn't catch a touchdown pass against Texas. And you look at some of the other games, the bigger games Ohio State had, going into Illinois is not really the most hostile environment. And Jeremiah Smith, well, he's been great this year, but he hasn't had that ball or he hasn't had that moment where you look at him and he is just, I'm not going to yell like I really want to right now. I don't want to burst your eardrums. But I think in this game, in this environment where it looks like there's snow in the forecast, it is going to be cold, and that's going to play into the game plan that Michigan wants. Michigan wants the colder weather. Michigan wants the worse field conditions. They want all of that. But Ohio State has some buttons they can push. The Buckeyes have some plays they haven't ran yet. The Buckeyes have some coaches that are ready for this moment so they can put their stamp and their finger all over this game. Because like I said earlier, this is where legends are made. Those of you watch right now on the YouTube, you see the picture that I'm pointing at right now. And let me see. Right there. That's CJ Stroud. Thinking about Stroud, he didn't win these games. He played in 2, started 2, didn't win them. The guy next to him, number 10, that's Troy Smith. And I think we can all right now remember the 06 game of the century where Troy Smith made some big plays and Ohio State won 42-41 and cemented their spot in the BCS National Championship game. And I think we all remember what happened in 21 and 22 where Stroud probably could have won a Heisman if he won this game, but he didn't make the plays. He didn't get the job done, and he does not have a pair of gold pants as he was the starting quarterback in those games. And I think in this one, not only is Ohio State ready for war, they're not going to back down. Smith and Tate being on the field is a massive, massive benefit. Now, it's not concrete. Ryan Day has not come out and said they're going to play, but all roads are leading to them continuing to trend in the right direction to play in this game tomorrow.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Haynes King, it's been cute, but time to shut up.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs.
This is the week. Y'all been waiting for a week. We can talk about Cupcake Week. But this week, oh my gosh, the good Lord above has smiled down upon you, has gifted you a long extended weekend, food and football, and the opportunity to lock your door once your family leaves and never let them return.
Yeah. It's important to put a TV in a bedroom with a lock on the door. You understand what I'm trying to say? For just such an occasion as this. But let's start with Georgia Tech. This is obviously the marquee game. It's what we're here to talk about. It's Friday afternoon. It's in Mercedes-Benz. It's 3:30 Eastern time. It's little brother. It's big brother. Their season's over. Our season's kind of just getting started.
Literally.
Last year, 8 overtimes, real casual. Nothing, no big deal about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Lost our minds watching that game. And kudos to all parties involved. Kudos to Haynes King. Kudos to Brant Key. Kudos to the Georgia Tech staff for putting together a game plan.
hobbling together a game plan with that team.
And they did it. And they did it. And they
Yes.
almost won the Super Bowl. They came up just short.
Just shy.
And now this year they roll into town. And Clint, the line in this game at time of recording is 13.5 points. If you recall,
I do.
Your boy got it at 11.5.
Many
late
people
last week.
Late
last week.
We gave you a sneak preview of this episode a week ago. Told you to get
I
on.
said, listen, whatever the number is, I'm going to be laying them. And then I checked the number. It was 11.5 right then. That was before last Saturday's game, and I laid it.
When you go to the window 3 times, you feel good about something.
Yeah. But now the line's moved on up to 13.5. You can still get it under 2 touchdowns if you want it on FanDuel right now. I do not expect that number to last until Black Friday.
No.
It's not going to go on sale on Black Friday.
No.
So if you want it under 2 touchdowns, you better come take it. Over under in the game is 59.5. So, Clint, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's time for predictions. It's time for how the game's going to go. It's time for your thoughts on this game. Do you have a lock? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, the lock is absolutely giving points to Georgia Tech. This could be, look, don't bet Kirby. He's 0-13-1 in games in which he's favored by 40, but games like this has Kirby special written all over it. If this line was 18, I'd be laying the points.
Oh, wow.
Like, give me the dogs. Because here's how this game is going to go. Mike Bobo will be like the killer whale on Nat Geo with the seal, tossing it from one side of the iceberg to the other, waiting for it, just passing the time until he actually goes ahead and does what he wants. This defense doesn't scare anybody. The offensive line for Georgia goes up against anybody. Georgia Tech does not have the dudes up front. So even if Georgia just decided to come out and say, Gunner, you can't throw more than 10 passes today, we'd still have the same outcome. They're going to lean on this Georgia Tech defensive line, linebacking group. The DBs can't tackle. They're not physical. I mean, we've been effusive all week long on how bad this defense is. And we've told you, don't expect Georgia to do the kind of NASCAR racetrack feel that everybody wants, where every play should result in a touchdown, because again, that's not how Kirby Smart has a balanced game plan. He wants to go ahead and keep people fresh, keep guys in. He wants to go ahead and play complementary football. But this offense is just they're going to fall into points. They're not going to have to do that. They're going to be executing well and performing well on talent, but they're going to be falling into points. I do expect, if I'm going to call where Georgia Tech gets their points, I think it comes later in the game. Normally, Georgia has had a problem allowing early points.
Yeah.
And so I say we're going to give up a whole bunch of points. We've talked about the first score or maybe the first quarter. Look back at Tennessee, games like that. Georgia gives up points, and we're the one coming back. The script has flipped, Daniel, for this Georgia team. We are the ones who are going, we might be putting in some 2s in the fourth quarter. That might be where we're at. And if that's the case,
I mean, you're laying 18 points in this game. So
I would
you
happily do so. Happily do so. But with 13.5, I'm laying the points at absolute lock, stone cold lock. Give me Georgia handily winning Tech, and the defense holding Haynes King to maybe 10 points total, 14 points total in this game, because we know exactly what they're going to do. Our DBs are ready, and our linebackers and defensive line are ready. Daniel, do you have a lock in this game?
I mean, I liked it a lot better at 11 than I do at 13.5. I'll tell you that. I would not be laying. I would be taking Georgia Tech in a heartbeat if this line were 18. I'm not so ridiculous as you, as to say that. But here's what I will say.
Okay.
I think our defense is playing better. You look at Georgia's had 3 games all year. This total is 59.5. Georgia's had 3 games all year that have gone over 59.5. Okay. One of them was Mississippi State, 41-21, went over by just a few points. And Mississippi State, if you recall, a lot of garbage time in that game.
Lots.
The Ole Miss game, obviously, 43-35, and then the Tennessee game, 44-41. Those are the three games that Georgia's had that's gone over this total. And so immediately you see a number like 59.5, I think, under. I think this is and we've been talking all week, Georgia stops the run. None of those teams that I just mentioned were able to make a lot of progress running the ball against Georgia. Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State did all of their damage to Georgia through the air.
Yep.
Can Haynes King and this Georgia Tech offense do that? I think they will to some extent. I think they're going to get some points. But I think Georgia scoring 35-38 in this game is as near to a lock as anything that I can possibly think of. Georgia's team total in this game is 37.5. Like, that's a really high number.
It's very high.
And I think that's where they're going to be. Do I think that Georgia Tech is going to score more than 17 points, more than 20 in this game?
Question.
That's what I'm going to have to do in order to lay this number. I think they're going to get 17. I'm not going to lock anything up because the margins then are just pretty tight. If we're looking at 35-20 as a very likely final score, then I'm not really looking to lock up 13.5. But I do like Georgia to win this game comfortably, to your point. I just don't think Georgia Tech does anything well enough to compete with Georgia. Georgia Tech's strength lines up perfectly with Georgia's strength. This
does.
Nobody's talking enough about how bad Georgia was at stopping the run last year, and that's why that game went to 7 overtimes.
It was not Haynes King arm. It wasn't wide receivers. It wasn't anything. It was the running ability of Haynes King, simply put.
It's not technically a stray when you aim straight at the person, but Buster Faulkner's about to catch one.
Okay.
If he had just run the ball one time in overtime, Georgia Tech would have won this game. And they could have been celebrating all year for winning the Super Bowl. But we went to 8 overtimes, and Georgia ran it once with Nate Frazier to win the game.
That's it.
And Buster Faulkner ran it 0 times in overtime.
You got too cute, Buster.
Real cute. Mike Bobo and Buster were getting into a cute off in that overtime session.
To be fair, you only have about 4 on the sheet. You've practiced 2-point plays. Like, to be fair.
And Kirby called timeout between all
every single one of them.
Georgia couldn't stop the run last year. That's why this game was close.
Yeah,
I really think you put Georgia Tech in a pickle when you stop the run, when you bottle them up. They're going to hit some passing plays on Georgia. Everyone does.
I think so.
But they're not going to be able to do it consistently enough. And I just see this Georgia offense moving the football, Clint. It's an easy win for Georgia.
Yes.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. to place your first $5 bet.
We're just 2 days away from Texas and Texas A&M.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are getting you set for Friday night's Lone Star Showdown. Texas and Texas A&M meeting in Austin for the first time since 2010. Of course, just the second year since the Longhorns joined the SEC, and so much is on the line this Friday night. Texas A&M fighting for a spot in the SEC championship game. The Longhorns fighting for a spot in the college football playoff. This game is always a big deal, but it feels even bigger here in 2025. Matt, I guess right off the bat, Texas A&M is 11-0, ranked number 3 in the country. It's the best season the Aggies have had in a long, long time. What's been the biggest key to their success so far?
I think it has to be their resiliency and their ability to win games in a bunch of different ways, right? They've won games that are defensive battles and really tough at the line of scrimmage. They've won games that are shootouts. They've had to come from behind from 27 points down. They've dominated opponents. So they've done it in a variety of ways, and they've been very resilient. I think that offensively, it's really started with Marcel Reed and his ability to get the ball to those receivers, and those receivers have been incredibly explosive in space and in getting downfield and making people miss. And it's just been an incredibly hard offense to stop, a very versatile offense, and that's really what's been driving them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they've been very solid too. Cassius Howell leads the SEC in sacks. The secondary has improved. Torian York has been playing out of his mind, and they've had some players step up after some big losses from last season. So it's really just been an all-around effort in every way, shape, and form. And I think it's honestly Mike Elko's best coaching job as well.
Yeah,
he's really kept these guys focused.
Excuse me. Yeah, Matt, I'll be honest. I've been eating crow about Marcel Reed all season long, right? I mean, the step that he has taken from where he was in 2024 to where he's been all year in 2025. I mean, he's been the straw that stirs the drink for Texas A&M this season. Where has he progressed the most? Why is he so much better in year 2 versus what he was a season ago?
Well, I think that for one thing, the speed of the game has slowed down for him a whole hell of a lot. Last year, if you got pressure on him, he got happy feet. He kind of made mistakes. He would just tuck the ball and run. This year, I don't think that they've really necessarily simplified the offense, but things have slowed down. They've figured out things that really work well for him. The receivers have honestly helped a lot, but he's making a lot better decisions with the football. His mechanics have cleaned up a whole heck of a lot. And he's been clutch. He's been making throws when it counts, and that's why he's in the top 4 for the Heisman right now. If I had to vote right now, he'd be in New York. I don't have a vote, unfortunately. Otherwise, he probably would get one from me. But hey, it is what it is. He's matured so much, and his teammates have bought into him so much that I think that it's really had an effect around the team in terms of just their belief in him and his ability to lead this football team, and it's been really big for them.
Yeah, Matt, you talked about a couple of those wide receivers. I mean, I've got portal envy with some of the guys that A&M brought in last offseason, KC Concepcion, Mario Craver. I mean, I thought those guys would be good. Aggie fans thought those guys would be good. I don't think anybody saw this coming. Those guys are 2 of the best wide receivers in college football. Their numbers tell the whole story. They have been difference makers. What has made them? Obviously, opposing defensive coordinators have known for a while how good those guys are, and they still can't stop them. What has made those dudes so explosive and electric all season long?
The speed, the versatility, the agility, the quickness, the route running, those guys both have it in spades, man. And it's really, really been impressive to watch. Texas A&M likes to run a lot of quick stuff offensively in terms of like the quick passing game. And if you give those guys an inch of space, they can make you miss and they can take it the distance. They've also been really good in running their deep routes and getting open down there. Marcel Reed has been accurate with the football for the most part, getting them the football in good positions to win against a lot of good passing defenses. I know the records say that Texas A&M has played 7 of the bottom 8 teams in the SEC, but some of those defenses have been really good, particularly against the pass. They've been able to succeed anyway. And again, the clutch factor with them has been unbelievable. It seems like every time Texas A&M needs to make a play in the passing game, KC Concepcion and Mario Craver are right there. Ashton Bethel-Roman, a really young receiver, is making big plays. And, even Isaiah Williams has made a couple plays here and there. So they just show up when it matters. And that's kind of a theme with this team is when they need it most, it happens. And everybody's doing it at a collective level, but especially those receivers. And the funny thing is, probably the 2 best transfer receivers in college football this season both play for the same team. A lot of people forget Texas A&M had another one at the beginning of the season, Micah Hudson, that decided to go back to Texas Tech. They could have had 3, so it could have been even more explosive, which is kind of crazy to think about.
That's a scary thought right there. So what about this matchup, Matt? I know you've been paying a lot of attention to Texas throughout the season and definitely this week leading up to this game. You know, the Longhorns have struggled defensively, especially in the secondary over the last month of the season. Do you think that's an obvious advantage, the A&M passing offense going up against the Texas passing defense with what we've seen from both of these teams here down the stretch?
I think it is an advantage for Texas A&M, and I'll tell you why. The games that I've watched of Texas over the last few weeks, really since the Kentucky game, I feel like they've been playing a lot of soft coverage and giving these receivers on the opposing offenses a lot of space, particularly, you know, on the opposite side of Texas's best corner, Manny Muhammad, and that's been eating them alive, especially against Georgia. They were giving them way too much space, and the Georgia receivers were catching the ball and turning it into yak yards and getting explosive plays. And they've also had kind of very questionable eye discipline at the safety position over the last couple of weeks, and both of those things are things that Texas A&M has taken advantage of against their opposition all season long. So in that particular scenario, yes, I do think Texas A&M has a pretty big advantage there. And if I'm not mistaken, Texas is going to be starting a true freshman corner opposite of Muhammad this week in Cade Phillips. So how is he going to react to going up against a KC Concepcion or a Mario Craver? How is he going to handle that kind of route running and that kind of speed? We'll have to see, but it's certainly an advantage for Texas A&M in that realm.
Yeah, Texas probably starting 2 freshman corners this weekend. Now, one of them's Grayson Littleton. He's started every game since week 1. But, Cade Phillips was 3rd on the Longhorns in snaps in their most recent game against Arkansas. So he has kind of taken over as that number 2 corner opposite of Manny Muhammad. And if I'm Colin Klein, look, I know you trust both of those receivers, but whoever's going up against the true freshman, that's the guy I want to go to pretty much all night long on Friday. So that's a matchup that I, as a Texas fan, am definitely nervous about. What about the Aggie run game, Matt? I mean, Le'Veon Moss, Mike Elko told us on Monday that he's probably not going to play, considering he's missed the last 5 games. Maybe I should believe him, but part of me thinks maybe there's a little gamesmanship going on with this rivalry. And Reuben Owens sat out against Samford. Sounds like he's going to play. E.J. Smith sat out, easy for me to say, against Samford. Sounds like he's going to play. But where is A&M at with its run game in terms of health going into Friday night?
Well, it's really nice to play Samford in that part of the season, right? Last week, because you get an opportunity to rest some guys. Reuben Owens is going to be good to go. I don't think Le'Veon Moss is going to play. My guess is that it's not gamesmanship, but you never know with this rivalry what things might bring. But my guess is you'll see a heavy dose of Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, maybe some of the true freshmen, Jamarion Morrow, and some E.J. Smith as well. They've got a really deep running back room outside of Moss. The difference is when they do have Moss, he's the power back. He's the hammer and that runs in between the tackles and can get you the tough yards that you really need, right? These other guys, they can do some of those things, but they really thrive in the more outside zone running game and in the more explosive types of running plays, the speed, particularly Reuben Owens, who's one of the most explosive running backs in the country. So it'll be a little bit different in terms of what Texas A&M fans are used to throughout the majority of the season with Le'Veon Moss, but they have a lot of confidence in Aggie land about Reuben Owens, and really the emergence of Jamarion Morrow has been huge for them as well. But they're 4 deep at the position, and they can beat you in a lot of different ways. Plus, Marcel Reed, as good as he's been throwing the football this year, his best asset might be his legs. So they can run it at you in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, last question for this opening segment, Matt. I kind of want to talk about that matchup, right? Going into Texas's most recent game against Arkansas, the Longhorns had a top 5 rush defense in America. Arkansas had a lot of success against Texas, especially in the first half, right? The Longhorns kind of cleaned it up in the second half as Texas sort of built their lead and kind of put that game away. But Arkansas ran it for 188 yards against the Longhorns. That's the most Texas has given up in an SEC game all season. Obviously, like Marcel Reed, Arkansas has a dual threat quarterback in Talon Green who was able to have success on the ground. How are you feeling about this matchup? Is there an obvious advantage when it comes to the Aggie rush O against the Texas rush D?
Yeah, I think that part of that has to do with the absence of Anthony Hill last week for Texas. I think that played probably a pretty big role in that. But also, Texas has had some issues with their run fits over the last couple of weeks. Georgia ran it against them pretty effectively. Everybody's been able to run it against them pretty effectively over the last couple of weeks. So I think Texas A&M is probably better equipped than any team they faced this year to run the football against them with their offensive line. They're, 6 deep across the offensive line. They've got guys that can play in multiple positions. Armaj Reed Adams is one of the best guards in the country. So this game is really going to come down to who wins in the trenches, and I think that Texas A&M has an advantage offensively in the trenches for sure. And they should be able to get a push against that Texas offensive line, and I think that that's going to play a major difference. They're really good at dealing with stunts and run blitzes. They're really good at pulling for outside runs. They're really good at just the power running game. So I would expect Texas A&M to have some success on the ground, if not, maybe not to the level that Arkansas did without Anthony Hill in there, but I do think that they're going to be pretty dang successful in that area.
Yeah, and Texas linebacker Anthony Smith will miss the first half of Friday's game after he was ejected in the third quarter against Arkansas because of a targeting penalty. So Anthony Hill likely coming back from that broken bone in his hand, but the Longhorns still a little bit shorthanded, at least for the first 30 minutes.